My 32F husband, 34M, is claiming that he didn't know my sister. 33F is gay and is now saying he doesn't want our kids, 12M, 8F and 6F, around her. Me and my husband have been married for 9 years and have a son, 12, and 2 daughters, 8 and 6. I have very demanding job and work long hours, so my sister watches our kids on weekdays because she works from home. The schedule is that I get the kids up and drop them off at my sister's house at 6:30 and then go to work. My sister feeds the kids breakfast and gets them to the bus stop. After school, the bus drops the kids off and my sister gives them snacks and helps with homework until my husband picks them up at 5. I get home from work at 6:30 by 7. My sister and I are very close and I'm extremely grateful to her. She loves and spoils my kids. She's basically like a third parent to them. I pay for all her groceries and my kids help her around the house in return. On Monday, I got an urgent call from my husband after he picked up the kids. He said that I needed to leave work immediately so I could come home to have an emergency discussion with him. I panicked and rushed home because he wasn't answering any of my calls after he hung up. When I got home, my husband proceeded to dramatically tell me that my sister was gay. Apparently, when he got to her house, her girlfriend was there, and they kissed in front of him. I actually laughed when he told me this because my sister has been out since I was a teenager, and her girlfriend and her have been together for 3 years. He is claiming that he thought her girlfriend was just her friend, and that mentions of her being gay were just jokes. My sister's girlfriend doesn't come to a lot of family events because she travels for work, and our family doesn't really talk about her being gay that often. Still, I can't believe that he wouldn't have figured this out in the 13 years he's known her. It's been so long that I can't remember if I ever verbally told him that she's gay. My husband said that he doesn't want her around the kids anymore because she will influence them, and wouldn't explain what that meant. I told him that I wasn't going to cut my sister out, and he said I could still see her, but not the kids because they are too young. I asked what the hell he expected to do for childcare if we couldn't use my sister, and he suggested I take a week off work while we figure it out, which I absolutely cannot do. I didn't want to yell at him in front of the kids, so I said I was going to take a walk to calm down, and we would discuss this later. When I got back, my daughters were crying, and my son was upset. He told me that their father had told them they weren't allowed to see their aunt anymore because she was having personal issues. I blew up at my husband and told him that he was being bigoted and selfish and that I wasn't going to cut my kids off from their aunt who loves them because he was too stupid to notice that she's gay. Then I packed the kids up and went to stay with my sister. I have no idea what to do. I love my husband and I don't want a divorce, but there's no way I'm going to cut my sister off. I can't believe my husband didn't know she was gay, but I don't know why he would lie about this. He's never said or done anything homophobic before. I know I shouldn't have yelled at him like that, but I was furious that he said that to the kids. Any advice would be appreciated because I'm at a complete loss here. Edit. After reading the comments, I think that unfortunately you guys are right. This is so out of the blue that I was looking for reasons as to why he might not be a bigot, but I think he just is. If it comes down to him or my sister, I am choosing my sister. At this point, I am so upset with him that I don't know if I would take him back if he came begging on his knees. He said what he said, and he can't take that back. To answer some questions, we don't really talk about politics because he doesn't really engage. I will mention something, and he'll just respond, okay, or uh-huh. Our life has been so hectic lately that we don't have a ton of alone time together, and when we do, we don't talk about politics. We live in a pretty liberal area, and he's never expressed any right-wing beliefs to me before, so I never thought that he had any different views. My sister being gay doesn't come up that much. Her girlfriend isn't around us or our kids a ton, and my sister's sexuality isn't a topic of conversation, because it's just something that is. Like she's gay and that's that, so it doesn't really get discussed. I talked to my sister, and she said that they don't really interact that much. When he comes to get the kids, he will usually just say hello and nothing more. He's been ignoring my calls and texts, so I'm going to go over to our house tomorrow when I know he's home and have a discussion with him. I'll post an update. Thanks for all the advice. Now for the update. This is an update to a post I made earlier. It got removed, but I posted the original text on my profile if you would like to go and read it. So it turns out a lot of you were right, and my husband was lying about not knowing my sister was gay. He wasn't answering any of my calls or texts, so I went over to the house when I knew he'd be there to talk. After we sat down, I said that the only way I would even begin to consider working this out was if he gave me the reason why he was suddenly acting like this, agreed to go to couples and individual therapy to work on his hurtful views, and apologized to me, the kids, and my sister. He started saying all the same stuff about my sister being a bad influence on the kids and not being in line with his moral compass. I got fed up and told him to cut the bullshit right now and tell me what was really going on, or I was going to walk out and he would never see me or his children again. I've never spoken to him like that before, and I think it rattled him because he spilled the whole story. Long story short, he's been having an affair for the past year. Now that I think about it, it makes sense. I thought that maybe he was pulling away from me, but I figured it was just stress from work and kids. He admitted that when he had to go into the office on weekends, it was just an excuse to see her. Sometimes he would take a half day at work to go and be with her until it's time for him to pick up the kids. In his words, he was neutral about my sister being gay until his girlfriend opened his eyes. Apparently, when he mentioned my sister to her, she was shocked and started sending him lots of podcasts and YouTube videos on the subject. So for the past year, he's been falling down a right-wing rabbit hole, and I had no idea. He said that he knew I wouldn't accept his new beliefs, so he was forced to hide it from me. He also admitted that he's been wanting a divorce for a while, and not just because of the affair. After watching the videos and podcasts, he started to resent me because I'm not a traditional wife who stays at home to cook, clean, and take care of the kids so that he can relax after work. He said that seeing my sister kiss her girlfriend was the final straw because he realized the extent what his children were being exposed to. So he pretended to not know about it and made it this giant issue. In his mind, this was the perfect solution because he could finally make me see things his way and become a stay-at-home mom, or I would divorce him, and he could come away looking like the good guy. Then he said he's going for full custody to protect his kids. I'm not super proud of it, but I flipped out at him. I called him a lot of names and told him that it'd be a cold day in hell before he even got 50-50 custody. I said if he wants to talk to me again, he'll have to contact my lawyer. Then I stormed out before I could smack him or something. In all honesty, this is a total nightmare, and I feel like I'm partially to blame. 13 years together, and I didn't notice he was changing overnight. I didn't think he was the type get sucked into this sort of thing, but I guess he's stupider than I thought. I also never expected him to be a cheater either, so maybe I didn't know him as well as I thought I did. On the other hand, the comments on my last post have made me do some thinking, and I realized I was not very happy in our marriage. A lot of people were asking what we even talk about, and the honest answer is we don't. We started dating when I was 19, and he was my second ever boyfriend. About a year in, I remember I was feeling unsure about our relationship, and then bam! I got pregnant with our son. It all happened so fast, too. He proposed to me and I said yes. We had never discussed marriage before, and looking back, I'm pretty sure I would have said no if I wasn't pregnant. We had a long engagement, but we were basically married right after because I moved in with him immediately to raise our son. God, I feel so stupid. I think I was pretty naive at the start of our relationship. I never thought to have any in-depth conversations about politics, family, and religion. I'm realizing now that I was mostly staying in the marriage because it felt easier than the alternative and better for my kids. I genuinely thought he was a good man and father. Now I'm remembering tons of different moments in our relationship that I brushed off and fights we had that all add up to a bigger picture. I think part of why I've been so frazzled and exhausted lately is because he was literally doing the bare minimum and leaving me and my sister to pick up the slack. I don't regret the marriage because it led to my kids, but I regret not seeing everything sooner and getting out. Right now, my kids are my #1 priority. When I got back, I sat them down and we had a long conversation about their father, his views, and LGBT rights in general. I made it very clear that I would support them no matter what. I am also looking at getting all 3 of them in counseling to help them deal with this. We are temporarily staying with my sister while I sort out the divorce. We have separate bank accounts, but I need to figure out how to sell the house, because I don't think I can afford it alone, and he definitely can't. There are some townhomes opening up in my sister's neighborhood that I'm going to try for, so my kids can walk to her house. My sister has been so supportive during this entire ordeal. She and I had a long talk about everything with lots of hugging and crying. I feel awful for bringing a bigot around her, and I don't think I can ever repay her for all of the help and love she has given me and my children. She and her girlfriend have been helping out with the kids and the divorce stuff, Since her girlfriend is currently in town, I decided that I wanted me and kids to get to know her better, so this weekend we are all going to the museum and hopefully take my kids' minds off everything. What I'm most worried about is custody. I don't want my soon-to-be ex-husband and his girlfriend anywhere near my kids, but I'm not totally sure what to do. He's still their father, and I don't want to keep them from having a relationship. I'm going for full custody, but should I ban him from seeing them entirely? My son and older daughter are very upset with him. My son doesn't want to see him at all, and I'm not going to make him if he doesn't want to. I'm sorry that this is long and kind of red belly, but it feels nice to get my thoughts down. This whole situation has been overwhelming, so again, any advice going forward would be appreciated. I might update in the future after everything is settled to let you guys know how things are going. But in the meantime, I would like to thank you all for the helpful comments and messages. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for laughing in my mother's face when she said my stepsister planned my 18th birthday? A little background. My mom and dad separated when I was 6, and each went their separate ways. Of course, they had joint custody of me, but they both started new families. When I was 9, my mom married a man, let's call him Robert, who already had a daughter, let's call her Kira, who was 2 years older than me. My dad got engaged when I was 8 to a wonderful woman, let's call her Layla, who he married when I was 12. My relationship with Layla is beautiful. She has truly been a mother to me. She basically helped my dad raise me. She takes an interest in my life. She comfort me, she advise me. We have common interests, and we do many activities together. She and I recently talked about the possibility of having her legally adopt me as soon as I come of age. Doing so now would be a bit messy legally because of my parents' joint custody. Because, for me, she is my real mother, and I want it to be official. My relationship with my bio mother, on the other hand, is almost non-existent. Even though I was forced to spend specific days with her, we never managed to bond because she spent all her time giving attention and affection to Kira, who already have her own mother. Even when she tried to involve me in some activity, she always included Kira, and we had to do only what Kira liked. At a certain point, I started to decline her invitations and often asked if I could avoid going to her on the set days, because I was almost always ignored or left aside, and I preferred to stay at home with my father and Layla. My father always tried to understand me, but he also had to honor the rules set by the judge. When I got more mature, he admitted that he was afraid that my mother might make some mean move in court if he agreed to not let me go to her on the appointed days. Yeah, this is something my mother would do. After knowing this, I understood my father's reasons, and I absolutely don't want to put him in trouble, so I didn't make such requests anymore, and I respected my schedule. Now let's get to the point. In 2 weeks, I will finally turn 18. I was lucky because my birthday falls on the days I have to stay with my dad, so he, Layla, and I started planning my birthday a month ago. It will be nothing too crazy, just a party with family and friends at my favorite pizza place. A casual night where I just want to have fun with the people I care about and do what I like. The place also has karaoke, and I love singing. Of course, after booking and setting everything up, we sent out the invitations, and this extended to my mother as well. Honestly, I didn't really want her there, but then I thought that this would actually be the last time I was forced to be involved with her because once I turn 18, I won't be forced to follow the judge's rules anymore. So we sent out the invitations 2 days ago, and we already had almost all the answers, so we could organize the precise number to send to the pizza place. The only thing missing was my mother, who saw the text and did not respond. I told my father that I would not insist, and if she did not respond, then it meant she did not want to come, and I was fine with that. I think my father was also a little relieved by the idea, even if he didn't say it openly, but I could see it on his face. Anyway, the drama started this afternoon. My mother called me, very angry, accusing me of being childish, and that I shouldn't have planned anything without telling her first. This left me a little confused, and I reminded her that I always planned all my birthdays with Dad and Layla. Most of the time she didn't even remember, so complaining now was quite hypocritical. This made her even angrier and started attacking me because Kira had been crying ever since I sent the invitation to my mother because she had already planned a whole birthday party for me. And I was really speechless because the relationship between me and Kira is zero. She is the classic spoiled brat who always wants to be the center of attention, and my mother has always supported this behavior of hers, making it worse. And clearly, she and I have never gotten along. I just didn't understand why the hell Kira wanted to organize a birthday party for me. It didn't make sense. I asked her why she did it, and especially why she did it without telling me. I mean, she didn't really think I wouldn't make any plans for my 18th birthday, right? It was ridiculous. My mother said it was supposed to be a surprise, and since I didn't tell her about my plans, she thought I didn't want to do anything for my birthday. And I mean, she could have asked? No? No. But here comes the worst part, and I admit, the one that made me lose my cool. My mother started listing all the things Kira had prepared for my party, maybe to rub in my face what I would have missed. And they were all Kira's favorite activities. Things that I didn't like. She had booked a fish restaurant for lunch, and I don't eat fish. Not because of some whim, but because it made me feel sick. Just smelling fish makes me feel nauseous. I'm not allergic. I had it checked. My body simply rejects it. She also booked an afternoon activity at a ranch near the city where my mother now live, where you can ride horses and, well, I don't like it. I have nothing against horses in particular, but the idea of riding one or getting really close to an animal, that big scares me. Then she thought about going back to my mom's house for a backyard barbecue for dinner, and I just don't want to do that because I don't want to spend more time with my mom than I have to. My mother also said they had already sent out invitations to everyone, and at that point I was really speechless, but I had to ask her who she had sent them to because my friends, my dad, and his family hadn't received anything. It turns out that at the party was mostly invited to Robert's family, my mom's family, and Kira's friends. I mean, it was basically a party organized by Kira for herself, but under the pretext that it was for my birthday. So, I didn't hold back anymore. I laughed in my mother's face and hung up the phone. It was all too ridiculous to be true? Come on. My dad came to me a little while ago, saying that my mom called him mad because I laughed in her face when she told me about the party they had organized for me, and he was very upset about it. He was starting to say that, despite all the feelings I had for my mom, they were trying to do a thing for once, but I stopped him right away and explained in details how the party had been organized, a detail that my mom apparently left out with him. His expression changed quickly. He just said, "I'm going to make a phone call, and I've been hearing him yelling at my mother for at least 20 minutes by now." Layla came to me after learning about the situation and said that as much as she could relate to me, I was a little rude to laugh in my mother's face and hang up without explaining. For her, I should have spoken out like an adult, despite my feelings, and sort things out in a civil and mature way. She wasn't angry, just a bit disappointed about how I acted. As soon as she left, I thought about my actions, and maybe I was a little hasty, but I don't think talking to my mom about it would have helped, honestly. But maybe I could have handled it better. I'm starting to think I was a bit of an asshole in that moment. Now for the update. Okay, I didn't think my post would get all this attention, whelp. But thank you all for the good wishes and words of comfort. I read all your comments and decided to follow some advice. First of all, I talked to Layla about my reaction to my mother. Layla raised me on the importance of communication and always pushing me to talk about my problems so I could solve them. So I see where her comment about my behavior came from, and I understand it. But I also gave her my point of view, telling her that the situation my mother was explaining was too absurd, and laughing is the only natural instinct that came to me. While my mother was talking at some point, I thought, is it a joke or some sort of bad prank? Is she making this all up? Because her bullshits was absolutely ridiculous. Layla said she understood me, and as many of you have told me, she just wanted me to understand that there will be situations in my life where I can't just laugh and hang up the phone, and she was just worried about my reaction. Anyway, we managed to clear the matter between us, and I'm happy. I also talked to my dad about the phone call he had with my mom. Apparently, my mom had an excuse for everything. She said that Kira just wanted to do a nice, sisterly gesture on my big day, that she wanted to share her hobby, riding horses, with me, and that she never thought my fish problem was a real problem, but just a whim, and the restaurant they had booked at made the best fish around. And that last one is a lie because, when I was little, I threw up a couple of times in front of my mom just because we went somewhere that smelled strongly of fish, so she know very well it's a real issue for me. My dad retorted that nothing they had prepared had been done for me, that Kira had clearly planned the party for herself, and what kind of party was it for me if none of my important people were there? My mother didn't respond to this. She just started ranting that I was ungrateful and spoiled, so my father told her to go to hell and hung up the phone. After hearing this, I decided to follow another piece of advice you gave me, and wrote a message to my mother. This time I decided to be mature and wrote the message in the most polite way possible. I apologized for laughing, but what she was saying was too ridiculous, so it was the only possible reaction from my side. I reminded her that she never put any effort into building a relationship with me, that she doesn't know me at all and has never cared about getting to know me. And since the birthday party Kira organized only had things that Kira liked, they could enjoy it together with their family and friends. I also told her that her invitation to my pizza party was withdrawn and she shouldn't bother showing up since she had already made it clear with the last phone call what her priorities were, and now I was going to do it too, and she was absolutely not on my priority list. I already have Layla as a mother, and I can't be more happy with her. I concluded by wishing her well with her new family and asked her not to contact me again. She read the message but didn't respond, and I'm fine with that. If she were to respond, I'm sure it would just be more complaints about me being ungrateful and spoiled. Because I know that talking to her is useless. She would not understand or pretend not to understand, but clarifying things once and for all has put an end to our situation. At least on my side, I had a sort of closure, and I thank you all for that. I probably would have given up and ended contact with her after my 18th widooth said anything. But your comments helped me understand that a firm end was necessary. For those who asked how my mom could throw me a surprise party when I wasn't with her, my dad asked her the same question, along with asking her how she could think he wouldn't throw me an 18th birthday party. My dad took it a bit personally, LOL. And she said they had planned for Robert to come get me the morning of my birthday, explain the situation to Dad and Layla, and then take me to Mom's house under some pretense. Honestly, I don't know how it would have worked. I would have flat out refused to go to my mother's if it wasn't our set days, no matter what excuse they would have made up. And most of all, I would never have left Layla and Dad to go to Mom's on my 18th birthday. It would have been one thing if my mother and I had a good relationship, but that was definitely not the case. In all of this, the only person I don't feel like blaming is Robert. We never had a close relationship, but he was always polite to me when we lived under the same roof. He even cleared out his study so I could have a permanent room in his house when I went to my mother's. We didn't develop any stepdaughter-stepfather bond, but he always tried to be kind to me, so I don't blame him for any of this. It's likely that he really thinks the party is for me. We don't know each other well enough for him to know my tastes, unless my mother told him, which I highly doubt she did. Luckily, I didn't leave anything of mine at my mother's house either. All my things are here at my father's house permanently. Usually, I would pack my suitcase when I went to my mother's with the things I needed for those days, and then bring them back when I went back to my father's. I never felt safe leaving anything to her, because Robert's family and Kira's friends came over often, and I didn't want to leave anything of mine out in the open to strangers. Well, that's it for now. I hope my mom respects my wish to go no contact and doesn't bother me anymore after that. I'd also like to bring up the adoption conversation with Layla after the holidays. She seemed really happy when we first talked about it. Thanks again, everyone, for your kind words and advice. Your insights have helped me better manage the situation. I can understand that I'm still a little immature, but I feel that this experience has helped me grow a little more and see the issue from other points of view. All the best for you guys. Thank you for watching.